Will a pioneer vaccine be the solution to brain cancer? The dramatic results as we continue. Channel 4 News Extra on The Verge. Here's Dr. Bruce Hensel.
99.
I love it.
100.
This simple shot into the skin near Glenn Rhodes' armpit is anything but simple. It's revolutionary, a vaccine he hopes will control his brain cancer. The tumor was discovered by MRI.
A brain tumor, well, let's call it the size of a golf ball, in my left frontal lobe.
Dr. Keith Black removed Rhodes' tumor during precise surgery like this one performed on another patient. When surgery, chemotherapy, and specialized radiation failed to stop Glenn's cancer from growing, he volunteered for the vaccine.
Can you say no ifs, ands, or buts?
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Rhodes and Mark Roschke are among hundreds of people getting the vaccine from Black. Countless others are getting it around the country. Jennifer Sugiaka and Hank Zavaleta got their vaccines from Dr. Linda Liao at UCLA.
Knowing that it was my own tumor, the proteins from my tumor that were going to be trained to attack any possible growth, I was very, very thankful for that.
I was hoping that it would cure me and that I would get to live longer. Yeah.
The hope is that injection will jumpstart the patient's sleepy immune system, which up until now has not been fighting the cancer. Stimulated by the combination of tumor and foreign-looking materials, the body produces new antibodies and killer cells that seek out and attack the cancer throughout the body. And study results are promising.
The 2-year survival with patients receiving the vaccine plus chemotherapy went from 8% in the control group to 42%.
And over 45% have survived over 3 years.
Black, Liao, and others say this is just the first step toward an even brighter future.
We can supercharge the vaccine by adding in dead bacteria to create the danger signal, adding in stem cells to light up the tumor cells even more effectively. I can envision, for example, in the future, is eliminating the need to do open surgery. I mean, trying to put myself out of business, that would be a fantastic thing.
That will take time and a lot of resources.
We need more funding, and we need to be able to hire more brilliant individuals, to accelerate, our development of cures.
Never give up. No matter how bleak things look,
Come on, sweetheart.
no matter how bad things get, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
For Troy Mangan, that light was surgery and chemotherapy. It may be that a strong immune system helped him survive his cancer.
Did you get a certificate?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Others like Glenn, Mark, Jennifer, and Hank need additional help. Rhodes, who began his treatment just a few months ago, is waiting to see how it will affect him.
It kind of looks like this bottom part now is less.
Roschke is doing well 3 years after his first shot.
In my head, I think I'm a real lucky guy to be where I am today. And so I'm not going to waste my time.
When we were told at the beginning the average life expectancy was 18 months to 2 years, so, we've been given a gift.
Up here, is it pretty normal?
Hank seems healthy 4 years into his treatment. Jennifer, who's doing very well 7 years after her first shot, has a message for anyone struck with brain cancer.
I would tell them to keep their thumbs up and not down. and just fight for it. Ask the doctors all the questions you can think of, and if they tell you something and it doesn't work, then do it some other way, but get it done. Fight hard. That's what I did, and look at me.
An accidental medical discovery. Can it be a cure for sickle cell? Plus, diabetes, a simple procedure that could dramatically change lives for good. When On the Verge returns. It used to be a painful death sentence. But is there finally a cure for sickle cell? Dr. Bruce Hensel with an accidental discovery on the verge of making medical history.
I have this throbbing pain in my leg. Throbbing pain is like somebody squeezing your leg really, really hard, like a giant is squeezing your leg, like trying to break it.
Sometimes it just be unbearable, or I have to come into the hospital in the emergency room.
The hospital is a painfully common place for Juanita Gugis and Dave Alberry. They both have sickle cell anemia, and pain is just part of it.
Average lifespan of sickle cell patients in this country is about 43 for male and 48 years for female.
And all because nature was trying to protect them from this. Malaria. Mosquitoes spread the disease. Their bite injects a parasite into the red blood cells, and it kills millions of people in Africa and parts of the Middle East and Asia. Nature's dangerous answer was a mutation, a simple change in one gene. As a result, in those people, the cells collapse into a sickle shape, so the malaria bug cannot get in. Tragically, the new shape also causes all sorts of problems. It does not carry oxygen as well, so the bones, the heart, the brain may not get what they need. And the new cells are stickier. They may plug up blood vessels and damage tissues and increase the chances of a stroke, heart attack, and other life-threatening problem. In David's case, it affected his growth. For Juanita, it meant countless days away from school and social events.
I've just got, take me. I don't want to be here no more.
About 1,000 babies are born with the disease every year in America. Up to 100,000 people live with it. Blood transfusion, surgery can reduce the risk of stroke and other complications, but there is no cure yet.
Okay, can you turn sideways a little bit?
Dr. Utada Nihara may change that, all because he made a surprising discovery when he was doing research on sickle cell.
We did not want to believe it because it just seems so simple.
So simple. A supplement called glutamine. It's an amino acid found in the body and in many foods, but missing in sickle cell patients because of a mutation. And the researchers found something very surprising when they applied glutamine to sickled cells in the lab. It caused them to open up and become the normal ball-like shape.
What this treatment does is we are adding substance that is going to increase antioxidant in red blood cell, and this seemed to prevent all the damages that's caused by sickling.
When Nihara and his team began to administer a strong form of glutamine to patients, the results were astonishing.
We had about 85% success. A child had kidney dysfunction, which is not uncommon for sickle cell patients. After starting taking this medication, the kidney function started to normalize. And this was really a fascinating story for me because this was one case where things actually reversed.
Juanita and Dave volunteered for the study.
It's better to try something that could possibly give me a less frequent crisis. Even if it doesn't work for me, it might work for the next person that has sickle cell.
David's crises went down from once a month to once every 3 months. Juanita, who used to go to the hospital for treatment 6 times a year, only went once in the last year and a half.
Before the research, I didn't think I was going to go to prom. I didn't make no plans to go to prom. I was just like, when I heard conversations about prom, I'm not going to prom because I'll probably get sick. Now, I'm really looking forward to going to prom.
It's pretty. I like it. It's Cinderella.
As Juanita makes plans she didn't think were possible just last year, Nihara hopes his treatment will save millions of others.
If we can start this in infancy, I think we can prevent these organ damages that will eventually shorten their lifespan.
But will the treatment ever get to the people who need it? Sounds like you're right on the verge. What will it take for you to accomplish this?
To tell you frankly, we need about $5 more million.
For now, it's small steps, measured in different ways. David is starting a career in real estate. And for Juanita, a life-changing metamorphosis. She made it to her prom.
I'm really enjoying myself and having a good time. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, I'm having the time of my life.
A new lease on life The major medical breakthrough already changing diabetics' lives. The conclusion of On the Verge, next. It may be the #1 killer in America, but pioneering work by local doctors is giving diabetics a freedom they never thought possible. Dr. Bruce Hensel, now with the conclusion of On the Verge.
When we first met Susan Weinberg in 2004, she was a slave to her diabetes and a slave to the needles for blood tests and shots that kept her alive.
I was testing between 12 and 15 times a day. I was taking between 35 and 45 units of insulin.
Susan has type 1 diabetes, the most severe form. Here's what happens. In non-diabetics, sugar in the blood stimulates the pancreas to release the hormone insulin. The insulin takes the sugar into cells where it's used for energy. In people like Susan with type 1 diabetes, the pancreas no longer makes insulin. When insulin is not present, the sugar builds up in the blood, injuring blood vessels, causing kidney, eye, and heart disease. 18 million people have type 1 diabetes worldwide. Though it used to be called juvenile onset diabetes, we now know it affects all ages and all ethnic groups. I see patients with complications from diabetes in the ER all the time, infection, even coma, and most of those come from a lack of insulin. But the fact is, as with Susan, the insulin shots themselves can cause problems by causing wide swings in blood sugar.
I get very disoriented and confused and not quite sure what's happening. And that's a real problem when you're driving. I've had 2 car accidents. One was very, very major.
Tired of the dangers and the shots, Susan volunteered for what many experts are calling a potential cure for type 1 diabetes, an islet cell transplant. This pioneer procedure was performed on Stephen Crank in Los Angeles at St. Vincent's Hospital in 1993. At that time, the islet cells taken from a cadaver were placed in a sterile bag, which was then surgically implanted in Stephen's abdomen.
I found it hard to believe at that point that I didn't need insulin to eat a meal.
But the hoped-for cure was only partial and temporary. Part of the reason we now believe is that the disease may be autoimmune, where the body attacks its own and ultimately the transplanted cells. So after time, the patients need shots again. Susan was hoping that would not be the case for her when she got the latest form of the transplant in April 2004.
We introduce a catheter into the liver through the side of your chest, and we guide that catheter into a major blood vessel supplying the liver.
The result? A 70% drop in insulin dosage within a few days. 1.5 years later, in 2006, Susan did not need insulin at all.
It's changed my life dramatically. It's just a sense of freedom that I never had.
But her transplant did not turn out to be the complete cure either.
She was losing a lot of the cells because her immune response was too robust.
An increase in immune-blocking drugs slowed that process. Susan now needs only a few units of insulin a day, a tiny percentage of what she needed in the past. Does the future hold promise of a complete cure? A recent study in the Journal of the American Medical Association showed that adding other treatments to the islet cell might help.
Actually doing a bone marrow transplantation from the same patient. And what they have showed that will actually circumvent the process of auto-rejection, the patient rejecting its own tissues.
Finding the best combination of treatment will take research, time, and money. Dr. Fawad Kandil feels that time may be just around the corner for Susan.
We hope that by giving Susan a small amount of bone marrow transplant with the islets, that she will not have any issues of rejection and she will not require any insulin injection for the rest of her life.
That would be a bonus. Susan was able to travel out of town for the first time in many years. She went to Mexico without any fear of losing control of her diabetes.
I do believe that there's a cure around the corner.
We are so close to solving 3 deadly, debilitating diseases. But the fight takes money. Research dollars that could be the difference between life and death, that could take us on the verge to cures. For more information on this broadcast, go to our medical page at knbc.com. From everyone at Channel 4 News, thank you for joining us.